Hi everyone, this is Dakota from becomingaprogrammer.com. This is the next video in the series on building a Hacker News clone in AngularJS. In the last video, we went over fixing that numbering issue we had with our pagination. Um, we ended up having to do a lot of CSS to do that, and I still couldn't kick the feeling that there's got to be a better way to do it. And if you felt like that too, you're right. I went through all this so you don't have to. It turns out there are a couple of options that we can use with the dir-paginate and dir-pagination-controls directives that we can use to fix our issue without having to touch any of this CSS or having to use the index of method or anything. And this is a good illustration of one of the main habits that it's important to learn while becoming a programmer. And it's important to always think about how our code is organized, and specifically what is the code we're writing for. And the answer to this question can guide us to putting the code in the right place. Like for this particular instance, we just had a problem with the numbering, so that's a data problem, right? That's not a presentation problem. So having to change a lot of presentation to fix that issue, to fix a numbering issue, that's a code smell. There's something wrong if there's something wrong with the data and you're going around it by, hacking the structure of the page. Basically, because the way we got this number is we went into this story and where it was within this array. But for instance, if we were doing pagination another way, we wouldn't be able to do that. So that's not, it's also a brittle solution in the end. So when I get that feeling now, I try to take a step back and make sure there isn't already a simpler solution to the problem I'm trying to solve. And I try to think about what I'm trying to do and to formulate like a Google search. This time, actually, I came across a better solution by rereading part of the blog post that's associated with this video. And I noticed that the on-page change option for the dir-pagination-controls directive that I described but never really fully looked into. And so that actually is the better way to do this. We can solve a problem with that dir-pagination-controls option called on-page change. And that option allows us to pass a callback function, which is defined on our controller's scope. Let me split this. Defined on our controller's scope so that we can, then that function will run every time we click on one of the pagination links and the page changes. And then what we can do is we can send that function accepts two parameters, the new page number and the old page number. And we can change our list back to an ordered list from an ordered list here. And then we can adjust the start property on that list depending on what the current page is. And then actually because this solves the problem in a much more elegant way, I'll actually also be going through in this video how we can use dynamic URLs to keep track of our pagination using Angular UI Router. And that way we can navigate through the pages using the pagination links, and our browser's URL will update accordingly. And we can remove all of our unnecessary styles here. So in the following video, we're going to break it up into some sections. And in each section, we're going to do one of the following tasks. We're going to define an updatePage method on our controller scope. And then we're going to add the on-page change option to our dir-pagination-controls directive, and to call that method we defined in the controller scope. And then we're going to create a property called vm.start, and we're going to keep track of the appropriate starting number for a certain page of the list. And then we're going to bind that start property to this tag here. It's going to be an ordered list at that point. And then we are going to add a parameter to our top state here that will accept the page number. And then that will allow us to press the current page in as a parameter to the URL. And then we're going to add a current page property to our controller scope, and we're going to bind that to an option in the dir-paginate directive for the current page, so that the directive will know which page to display given the URL. But in order to do that, we're going to need to pass in some more dependencies to our controller here. And then finally, there's a little bug there. If we don't handle it, we're going to actually have to make sure that when we click on one of the pagination links that the URL updates, and we're going to use Angular's location service to do that within our update page callback that we're going to call when the pagination links are clicked. So let's jump into it. First thing we're going to do is we're going to work on defining the updatePage method and calling it from within the dir-pagination-controls. So first thing we need to do, because we're going to be using scope, because this has to be defined on our controller scope, is we're going to pass in scope here as a dependency, and also here. And then I like to do this is part of the style guide. Like right up at the top, you define all of the publicly available methods or variables or whatever that the TopStories controller is going to offer. So here we're going to have updatePage, and we'll set it equal to a function called updatePage. And then within this activate block down here, we can define that function. And we need to make sure that it accepts new page number and old page number as arguments. And then within that, let's just, for now, we're going to console log the new page number. Okay, and then the next thing, like so that we actually get this function call, what we need to do is go into topstories.html, and we're going to add the on-page change option here. And we're going to pass that function we just defined on our controller scope. And we're going to pass the same two arguments, the new page number and old page number, as arguments. Close the parentheses and then the quotes. Okay, let's save that guy and save this guy. Okay, and I think I still have a server running here. Yeah. So we're okay if we reload this in the browser here. Let's just go back to localhost root URL now. Ooh, something broke. Update page is not defined, and that error was thrown in the TopStoriesController on line 11. Did I misspell something? Oh, you know what? I think I actually defined this in the wrong place. I did. So I'm going to need to put this in here, actually. So we don't need that. vm.updatePage. Let's put that there for good measure. It's going to be... Okay, so update page. Now when we reload this, it should be working properly. Okay, no console errors, great. And now here, when we click on the pagination links, we would have hoped that that would have passed the logged errors to our console. But it sure doesn't look like that happened. Okay, let me see. I think I might drop out of this too. Let's see if I can solve this. Okay, I'm going to pause the video here and see if we can get this working properly. Okay, so the issue here was actually that we injected scope as a dependency here, but we didn't use it when we defined the updatePage method. So this on-page change callback here, when we call updatePage, it won't be fired unless this updatePage function is defined on the controller scope. So when we make this change here, we just replace VM here with scope and save it. Now when we reload the page, we can see we click on the pagination links and the page number is logged to the console like we expected. Okay, so remember it's important to pass in new page number and old page number exactly to this update page function because it won't work otherwise. Okay, so let's keep going. Now we're going to set the VM start property, vm.start, within our update page callback. So the reason here is we have the current page number. Now we can calculate the number that the list should start on. So there are 30 items on each page, and the first page should start on 1. So the start property of our list should be equal to 30 times the page number minus 1 plus 1, which means, like for page 2, for instance, that we would have 30 times 2 minus 1, which is 1, 30 times 1 plus 1, which is 31, which is what we want. But then we need to get that information back into our view in TopStories so that we can use it to start this list. And the way we do that is we're going to define this vm.start property. So we can define vm.start, and then down here we can set it equal to 30 times the new page number minus 1 and then plus 1. And now just so we know what that is, we can console log vm.start in the middle of this, save it, and I'll reload here. And now when we click on the second page, you can see we get 31, 61, 91 logged to the console as we would expect. Okay, so now that we've added this vm.start property, let's add it to our repository and commit. Okay, and if you're noticing this get CI -m, the way we do that is the way you would use that if you want to use that command is you need to use these here. So you type in git config -- global alias .ci and then type in commit, and then you'll be able to use that like I am. Okay, now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to bind vm.start to this tag, which we're going to change back to an ordered list. And we can remove all these tachyons classes because we are not going to be needing them anymore. The ordered list will handle all the appearance problems that we had before. So we can get rid of that, and then we don't need any of this anymore because the numbers will be generated by the ordered list. Can change it to an ordered list. And then we don't need this clear fix anymore. So we can save that, and actually we don't need these classes on the ordered list either. Let's save that and reload here, and you can see this still looks normal. Also, but obviously we don't have the start property yet. So now when we go from page to page, it's still starting at 1, but all we have to do to fix that is add the start property to this ordered list and then pass in vm.start to it and save that. Now when we reload and click on one of the pagination links, you can see that we're on 31 and 61. So we have that all working in much less time, and we did it the Angular way. We're using the data binding, and we're able to pass the information back and forth and keep it in date. And I'll also be able to show you how this is going to extend. We're going to be able to use the location service within the update page callback to update the URL as we click on pagination links. So this is good, because if we weren't doing it this way, it would be very difficult to try to implement that. So yeah, now that we've got those added, let's put them into version control. Binds VM.start property to the OL tag in the top stories view. All right, and that's it for this video. Next, we're gonna work on the UI router and get the location updating so that we can actually visit any one of these pages via the URL. I'll see you in the next video.